Welcome to Time is Not on Your Side with your host, board-certified litigation attorney Robert Eckard. In every episode, we'll hear from other attorneys, accountants, and other professionals who can impact the success of your litigation. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, roberteckardlaw.com. Now here's the host of Time is Not on Your Side, Rob Eckard.
Welcome to another episode of Time is Not on Your Side. I'm Rob Eckard, and where we have guests and topics where you're unlikely to hear on any other platform. Today, we're going to talk about what's right and what's damn wrong with the immigration system in the United States. I've got a special guest, Ahmed Yakzan, who is a friend of mine. He is an attorney specializing in immigration law, and Ahmed is originally from Beirut, Lebanon, correct?
Yes.
And he came to the United States as a young man. He went to Stetson University in DeLand, Florida. Well, before he did that, he went to Brevard County Community College, where he got an AA degree, and then went to DeLand at Stetson, beautiful campus over there in DeLand, where he received his bachelor's degree in political science. And after that, he decided he was going to become a lawyer. And he went to Stetson University College of Law, where he obtained his law degree and graduated in 2008. And he didn't have enough education, so he decided he was going to go on and get an international law degree, an LLM in international law, which he did and completed also from Stetson University College of Law in 2009. I believe since then, he has been practicing exclusively in the area of immigration law. He is frequently nominated by his peers to be one of Florida's super lawyers in Florida. He is a member of the Leadership Stetson. He is a member of the District Court of Columbia in DC. He is also a member of the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. He's admitted into the United States Supreme Court in the Southern District of Florida. Most notably, Ahmed is the president and CEO of the law firm, the American Dream Law Offices in Tampa, Florida, established to help clients in all walks of life and all races in a wide variety of immigration and related issues, and is a fantastic resource, is a fantastic lawyer, and I know he is a fantastic advocate for his clients. Ahmed, everything I said, would that have made your mother proud?
She cries every day. No, because she gave me a bad head of hair. I think it wasn't because of my education, but I'm just messing. Yeah, I am. Thank you so much for having me. I think she will also be proud of me being on a great podcast with a great mentor and a great attorney yourself.
Well, listen, I always say the path to success is to flatter the person that's going to be having the bully pulpit, Ahmed. So keep going. Well, I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything, because I know you are a constant connoisseur, if you will, of knowledge, and you thirst for knowledge, and you seek knowledge, and you seek justice. I want to make sure that our audience, who's going to be listening to this and watching this, I haven't missed anything or shorted you.
One thing that I want to add is that there are a lot of immigration attorneys out there, but not a lot of them that do it right and do it for the right reason. And go
yes, I'm not a big TikTok guy, but I did a TikTok, and there's a TikTok of me doing this, and it says how many lawyers care about you, and I'm doing this. The analogy is you are 100% right, and I've experienced some immigration lawyers and lawyers in all different facets that shouldn't be doing what they're doing, and by that fact, you are at the top of your game. So
thank you.
The listeners and when I endorse somebody, I like to think that my credibility is and integrity is on the line. So you are one fantastic immigration lawyer. Let me bounce into this. What is it that the American Dream Law Firm focuses on for your immigration clients?
The fight. I know what the fight is worth. I know what the light at the end of the tunnel is. I tell people that your dream is my dream. I had a dream 25 years ago to come to this country and become an attorney, and I was able to do it. And it took me a long time, but I was able to do it, and that's what differentiates us from a lot of the lawyers out there, is that we fight. I mean, I had a case with 400 pounds of marijuana trafficking charge. That was uh, that was uh, the the person got deported for a long time ago, and we were just able to reopen the case after so many lawyers told them that don't worry about it, don't worry about it, no one is going to deport you, you're from Cuba, and you're not going to be able to reopen it. So fighting for that American dream is what sets my office apart, because I am going to fight for you. So
And you've walked that path.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Every single step of it. I mean, I came here on a student visa, all the way to getting my work visa, all the way to getting my green card, all the way to becoming a US citizen. So I have every single client that I represent, I have absolutely 100% knowledge of what they're going through, and that's what makes this worth it.
I'll tell you, when you meet with a client and you have it, at least for me, you in your gut, what they're feeling. That changes, I think, the perception of the lawyer, and should convey to the client the level of commitment, right? I mean,
Yes.
that you have.
Absolutely.
Let's jump right into it.
Sure.
All right. So, big week this week in Washington, D.C. for immigration. President Biden. Well, let me back up. I apologize. Let me back up.
That's
I want
okay.
to talk because we're gonna mention some terms for our listeners, and then we're gonna go back to what President Biden did this week. But I think it's important to because we're gonna be referring to things. Lawyers like to use acronyms and terms and things, but I think it's important that we know what those that our listeners know what these terms are. So there's a term called DACA, DACA. What's that stand for?
That's an acronym for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. That's DACA. That's what DACA stands for, and that's a program that President Obama actually put together in 2012. And I remember that day when it was announced, because I was in Nashville for AILA's annual conference, American Immigration Lawyers Association conference, and when he signed that. We were very elated because of it, because we really needed it. Let me tell you, I have represented DACA recipients since 2012, since that 12 years ago, since they actually that program was implemented, and these are some of the most hardworking, most educated people that you will ever meet in your life. They came to this country, not because and they had no fault in it. They were brought here by their parents, and you can't leave a 5-year-old kid here, and then unfortunately the parents didn't do anything to fix their status, and now the children are in their 20s and 30s, and they can't fix their status anymore. So what the DACA program did is, we're going to give you a work permit, we're going to defer the action on your case. And what that means is, we're not going to deport you from the United States. We know that you're here in an undocumented way, without papers, but we're deferring action on your case. That way we're not going to deport you, even though you have a removal order, an old removal order from when your parents were in removal proceedings. We're not going to remove you from the United States.
Now, my understanding is that when President Trump became president in 2017, the program stopped, and that program is ensnared in litigation. And I guess is there's some uncertainty about what will happen, correct?
Yes. So there's a couple of things. There are a couple of things that happened before the 2016 election, President Biden tried to President Obama tried to implement something called DAPA, which is Deferred Action for Parents, and that got struck down by the courts. And the DACA program came in as an incidental to that, and there is an injunction on new DACA applications. And the reason why it was new DACA applications, because President Obama in his 2016 order tried to expand the original DACA program to people who are under 35 years old when it was 30 years old when it was implemented in 2012. So what the Fifth Circuit said, and there is an injunction on that, that we're okay with the 2012 program that went all the way to the Supreme Court, and that actually got held as constitutional. The problem is new applications under the 2016 program, and that's what got stopped by the courts. Is it so? Right now, if you had DACA from the 2012 patch, you're fine, but immigration will not actually look at new DACA applications because of that injunction.
Okay, and the next term is the word dreamers, and I guess that dovetails in or rides the coattail of DACA, right?
Yes, so it's an interchangeable term that we call DACA recipients, or people who came here because of, again, no reason, no fault of their own, came here to the United States. That's who we call dreamers.
Okay,
So they could be DACA recipients and they could be not DACA recipients, but people who came here, who were brought here by their parents or without their parents, who don't have status. That's what we're talking about when we talk about dreamers.
And the next term, we were kidding before we came on live, the term undocumented alien or illegal alien. And you hear these terms thrown around, and are these terms used interchangeably, and are they used based upon what side of the political party you're on?
Unfortunately, it's the second one. It's what part of the political party you're on. And I do have a T-shirt that says no human being is illegal, because I'm, as you could imagine, I'm as liberal as they come, right? I wouldn't be doing this if I weren't. But I don't like illegal immigrants, because, again, just because you're here without documents doesn't make you an illegal human being. You can't be an illegal and a human being at the same time. So the undocumented is the one that, people and they're interchangeable, but undocumented is the one that I like better. And
the next term is a term called parole in place. And you said that term's been around for a long time.
So yeah, the parole program has been around since the beginning of immigration law, since the 1956 law, and it's an executive power that allows the executive branch in the United States to parole people that they need here into the United States. So, for example, the DEA, I know you do a lot of DEA cases. The DEA can actually parole a witness into the United States without having to issue a visa for them to come here, testify, and then go back to their country after they're done testifying. So the parole program has been around for a very long time. The parole in place program, though, has been around for about 10 years. And the current parole in place program that we have is actually geared towards the spouses of people in the armed forces. So if you have a person in the armed forces, if you're a spouse or a parent of someone who's in the armed forces, you can actually parole in place to cure the undocumented or irregular entry that you must have had to come to the United States. So usually, if you're a spouse of a United States citizen or you're a parent of a U.S. citizen, that means that you're an immediate relative. So you don't have to be in status to get a green card, but you must have made a legal entry to come to the U.S. And if you came in without inspection, then you have to cure that entry, and the parole in place allows you to get paroled into the United States, and that fixes the issue that you have that you didn't make a legal entry into the United States.
And just a question, as you were speaking, I was thinking, if you are granted that parole in place status, are you then eligible to apply for, I don't know, is it the EOD, the employment authorization, or the employment letter that you get so that you can get a social security number to work?
So you can do it in one of two ways. And parole in place allows you, just because you're paroled, you're actually allowed to get a work permit under the parole program. But the parole in place will also allow you to apply for permanent residence, because that would cure the undocumented entry that you used to come into the United States. So that allows you to apply for an employment authorization document under the parole, and then you're allowed to do it under the under applying for adjustment of status, and that's what we do it for, is the adjustment of status part.
Okay, and the next term, the final term, is green card holder or green card applicant. What is that?
Okay, so a green card applicant is someone who has an application for a green card pending in front of USCIS. A green card holder is someone who's gone through the process and became a permanent resident. And what the way I like to explain it to people is that when you are a permanent resident, you're pretty much a U.S. citizen without the ability to vote. So you can do everything except vote and run for elections in the United States. So you're subject to worldwide taxation. You're pretty much, for all intensive purposes, a U.S. citizen without the ability to run for office and vote in federal elections.
And one of the big things is, of course, for these folks, are the ability to travel in and out of the United States without
absolutely
impairment, right?
Yes.
And I know one of the important aspects, having going through this process with my wife right now, is once the application is filed and the receipt is received back from USCIS, U.S. Customs Immigration Services, that's one of the documents she needed to apply and obtain her Florida driver's license.
Yes, and the Real ID Act in 2005 really, I have a huge problem with it, because that was one of the things. If you look at your driver's license, you have in Florida you have that star on top of it, and that's a Real ID Act thing that we did in 2005, that said in order for you to get a driver's license, you have to have legal status in the United States. And a lot of states took it way out of proportion, and Florida is one of them. I honestly have a problem with them even requiring immigration status to get a driver's license, because for a lot of philosophical issues. But you're right. But the state of Florida keeps changing the requirements on what you need to get a driver's license. So in the old, like 4 years ago, you would have been able to get them with the receipts. Now you actually need the actual work permit for you to get a driver's license, which I think is ridiculous. But that's one of the things that your wife is going through. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
That's all right. No, you didn't interrupt. You're my guest.
All right.
You're the expert, and I guess that's where you and I at least divide a little bit on the philosophy of the Real ID Act. I mean, it's undisputed that 9 of the 11 hijackers were here in Florida, and that issue with driver's licenses was the new law was in part created because of the problems that we had here in the state of Florida with verification of the status of people in this country. But I won't bridge too far off that. It's a heated debate, heated topic. We can talk about it another time. But let me jump back into what President Biden did this week.
Sure.
I think it was on Tuesday, June 18th. President Biden did something that was pretty epic, I guess, in terms of immigration law. And what happened?
So there's a bunch of things that are still coming out on what the executive order is going to have. But what he announced are two very important things. We'll start with the simpler one, and then we'll go into the more complicated one. I told you earlier that the DACA recipients are some of the most educated people and more successful people that you've ever met in your life. I spoke to someone a couple of months ago that a state agency, a federal government agency, wants to hire him so badly, and he was on top of his class and one of the top. I really don't want to give a lot of information, but one of
Yeah,
the
don't do
top
that, otherwise I'm
programs
going
in
to go
the
back and
country.
redact this
Yeah,
thing out.
exactly. So one of the top programs in the country in his industry, and they're trying to recruit him. The problem is he only has DACA, and if you have DACA, you're also not allowed to get a security clearance if you're working for a federal government agency, because you can't do that because you're not a permanent resident or a citizen. So just on DACA alone, you can't really do anything and get a job that's that you deserve. That's number one. Number two is DACA is not going to lead to permanent status. And the problem that we have is, again, a lot of them have been here. They've known no other place other than the United States. How do we allow them to get jobs and visas that will actually expand their horizons a little bit? So what the president is going to do, USCIS and the State Department is going to allow DACA recipients to leave the country and come back, which is a huge thing that will help millions of them actually get green cards. In
Because
order
because 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 right now they can't leave the country and come back, correct? Because
yes,
they don't have a visa to get back in.
yes. So what the State Department and USCIS are going to do, that if you get a work visa in the United States, they're going to give you, and what I think is going to be what's called advanced parole. They're going to allow you to have a piece of paper saying, we're going to let you go outside the country and come back, and we're going to give you a piece of paper saying that you should be able to be allowed to come back into the country.
Is that
I
like a
think
131 or whatever it's called, a 130
yeah,
form?
I think it's going to be an iteration of that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So
And
which is
tell the listeners what is that? The 130, or I think it's 131.
okay. So it actually, the 131 form deals with a lot of cases. One of them is a re-entry. So a lot of, I represent a lot of asylum seekers, for example. So if you are granted asylum, your passport, you're not allowed to go back into your country, and your passport, sometimes you can't even renew your passport because you were granted asylum. So what the United States allows you to do is have a travel document. It's called a white passport, for you to be able to actually leave the country and come back. That's one of the ways. The second way that 131 is used is if you do have a green card pending in front of immigration and you don't want to abandon it, because if you leave the country, you actually can't come, you will abandon your green card if you leave the country. They will also give you an advanced parole document or a re-entry permit document saying you can come back into the country without actually abandoning the green card application that you have. So there's certain and the parole in place program that we spoke about, the 131, is the one that is the form that you use. So it's usually used for cases where you're leaving the country and coming back without having to abandon something that's pending in front of immigration.
Okay, so before I jumped off to that
Sure.
topic, we were talking about what happened this week and the idea that the executive order, was going to shield, to some extent, undocumented spouses, right, from deportation. That was one of the things that we were talking about.
That's the second part of it. So let me do two things. The first thing, I already spoke about the parole in place program that we have right now. I haven't spoken about what the process is currently. Okay, so right now, in I think in 2012, President Obama also signed an executive order allowing people to who came in an undocumented way or an irregular way across the border, who are married to a United States citizen, to apply for a waiver of an illegal presence in the United States before they leave the country to get their green cards. So this is the current system that we have for someone who, for example, came across the border, married to a U.S. citizen, they have children, all of that stuff. but they can't adjust their status in the United States because they didn't have that legal entry. So with the program that we have right now under the 601A is you apply for the first part of your immigration process for the immigrant visa, then that gets sent to the National Visa Center, which means you have to leave the country. But the problem is, if you leave the country, you're going to be barred from coming into the United States for 10 years. So what President Obama did is, here is a program. You apply for a waiver for all of that stuff in advance, and then you go back to your country to process your green card and come back. Now, the problem is, you can get an I-130 probably within a year or so, but for you to apply for the waiver right now is taking about 3.5 to 4 years.
Wow.
So you apply for the waiver, you're waiting for your waiver, but the problem is there is no way for you to leave the country. There is no way for you to legally work. There is no way for you to get a driver's license. There is nothing of that. None of those protections that allows you to actually stay here and help your family, right? So, and a lot of people ended up, for example, going to Tijuana and getting stuck, even though they had waivers over here already approved. The the officers said, okay, well, you have a tattoo on your neck. That's a gang sign, or that's gang membership. That's why you can't
I better not leave then, Ahmed.
That's exactly what I'm saying. So I wouldn't leave the country, and that's why I tell a lot of people, I would be more than happy to help you, but I will never tell you to leave the country because I can't guarantee that I can bring you back.
So this program that now is going to be at least announced in place will give this pathway to citizenship and legal status, right, for undocumented spouses and to work here in the U.S.
To permanent residence.
Okay.
So you have to be a permanent resident before you become a U.S. citizen. But so what it's going to allow them to do is, once you get paroled into the United States, because in order for you to get a green card, you have to be paroled or admitted. So the parole actually clears the irregular entry that you had when you crossed the border. Once that's cleared, that will allow you to apply for a green card here in the United States. And then you have to go through the whole process of applying with USCIS, paying the fees, doing all of that stuff, and going through the process here in the United States without risking having to leave the country.
It sounds like a little bit of a complicated process, and I guess that's where you come in to help folks.
Absolutely. And one thing that people have to understand, that we don't know how big the undocumented population in the United States is. Okay, but we're
estimated, according to the oversight committees, and at least from border protection, that at least from Biden's watch, we have between 8 and 10 million, right? I mean, that's a huge number. That could be a large clientele for you, Ahmed.
Yeah, that's in addition to people who came in, who were here before
Right.
President Biden went into office. So we're looking at about 20 million people. The estimates that came out from the OMB for this executive order is it's only going to help 550,000 people from the undocumented immigrants in the U.S.
And that's what I wanted to talk about. So what I read was that in order to be eligible for this program, 3 things must be in place. 1, lived here in the U.S. for 10 years or more, married to an American citizen as of June 17th of this year, 2024, and no criminal record. Is that right?
Yes. Because if you have any sort of criminal record, you can't get a green card. Well, with some exceptions, right? But you can't get a green card if you have a criminal record in the United States.
And so these 3 criteria, and I don't know if you have the answers to these things, but just off the top of my head, how does someone prove that they've been here for 10 years or more? It seems like a double-edged sword, right? They can't say, well, I've worked for this employer, and then, of course, that might help them, but it doesn't help the employer is going to be in trouble, right? So how do they establish that they've been here for 10 years or more?
That's what I get paid for, man. What do you want me to give away my secrets?
All right, that's the trade secrets.
No, I'm just kidding. We do have something right now called cancellation of removal, which is a green card that you can get, permanent residence that you can get in immigration court, and that's an issue that I've been dealing with since I started practicing. A lot of undocumented immigrants, you can have have children, so you can prove that you've been here for 10 years if you have a child in the United States and your child is 10 years and 1 day old, right?
Yeah. Okay. And as far as the criminal record, of course, that's always a kind of evolving area. I don't know. Since I practiced a lot of government investigations, criminal defense, and I know the pendulum has swung, but even something called a pretrial diversion program or pretrial intervention program can be used against an immigration applicant, against them, and it could affect their immigration status here in this country, even if the charge is dismissed after a successful intervention program, right? And so, any criminal record or PTI, or do we not know yet?
There is we don't know. So the DACA program, when the DACA program got implemented, there wasn't a criminal disqualification for it. They had a term that we've never heard before, which was serious misdemeanor. So we didn't know what serious misdemeanor meant. That's what the DACA. That's what the DACA criteria is. So what's a serious misdemeanor? I have no idea. My thinking is anything that makes you inadmissible or deportable into the United States can actually be a bar to adjustment of status. So anything criminal, like something that has to do with drugs or anything like that, you will have a hard time getting permanent residence if you have anything on your background that makes you inadmissible into the United States, because you have to prove that you're admissible into the United States for permanent residence, even though that you're already in the United States I know it's very convoluted, but you still have to prove that you're eligible for adjustment, even though you're here in the United States already.
Well, maybe this is where I align more with you and your political thought, but I think serious misdemeanor is almost an oxymoron.
Because it would have been a felony then, right?
Right. Or a federal crime or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, a misdemeanor, what is it? You're jaywalking, you're disorderly conduct, you caught too many, your bag limit, fishing, you got too many fish in your bag. What is it? Right? So if it was important, a judge once said to a friend of mine who was a judge in misdemeanor court here in Pinellas, when he first became a judge, he said, listen, this is misdemeanor court. If it was really serious, they'd send it up to the 4th floor, which is where felonies were. So it's a misdemeanor, but I get your point. So other than these criteria and how people prove that they've been here 10 years, and of course the criminal record, these sound like really positive things for folks that now have a pathway, right, for legal status that are here.
Yes. I mean, I can't really understate it. This will help so many people that I've represented, and it will also cut my legal costs in 75% or so. Because in the old days, I had to go to immigration court, defend them in immigration court, and then I don't know if you've been to immigration court. Immigration court is an administrative court, and the denial rates are very high in Florida. So you were really playing the lottery if you ended up all the way in immigration court, and then the real risk of denial is there. This way, you don't have to risk it to be deported for you to get a green card. So that's a huge weight off of a lot of families. So,
well, let me take us into another direction, since the title of the show was "What's Right and What's Wrong" with the U.S. immigration system. So let me shift over to the other side of things and talk a little bit about what has been wrong or is wrong currently, or has been wrong with the U.S. immigration system. There's no question that we've seen a massive migration, illegal migration across the southern borders of the United States, primarily, with an estimated 8 to 10 million people coming across since President Biden became president. And what has been estimated by, again, the Budget Oversight Committee and U.S. Border Protection is 1.8 million gotaways, which are those who have evaded U.S. border protection. Now we're seeing crimes committed and tracking by law enforcement of criminal organizations such as Tren de Agua out of Venezuela here in this country. And we just don't, there's people that have been caught on the coming across on the terrorist watch list. And of course, that begs the question, how many got through? What are these problems about? And doesn't this create a massive security interest issue for our country?
All right. So let me say one thing before we go to the stuff that's happening at the border. One of the biggest problems that we have in the United States, and a lot of politicians don't realize this, or they do realize it and they don't want to act on it, is the United States does not have a long-term policy when it comes to immigration. We don't have any goals. And the problem with our immigration system, that it's politicized to the nth degree. Let's just put it that way. We, I think at the last numbers I saw is 15,000 graduates every year in the United States are from outside the United States. I think that might be a low number, but let's say it's 15,000. Okay. In 1992, Congress came out with a number, and they said, we're only going to have 60,000 visas for people who graduate here with bachelor's degrees, and we're going to give them H-1B visas. Then the numbers went up because the numbers are very low, and then we increased them to 85,000 for the H-1B visa program, which is, again, these are people who are very well educated. They don't have any criminal record, anything like that. And these are people that we actually educated. They didn't get educated somewhere else. And they spend a lot of money to be here in the country and graduate. So what we do is 85,000 visas every year. They are out literally in 3 days. You have to have a lottery to actually get a visa. And you get about 500,000 petitions for 85,000 visas. So I always tell people that this is the issue that we've had in the United States, because in 1992 they put one number and we can never move it up or down. So what is the United States doing to stay competitive with other countries? Canada allows people with bachelor's degree to come in and get a work permit almost immediately. So what is the United States doing when it comes to immigration? I lucked out when I got my H-1B visa because we were in the middle of pandemic and the numbers were rolling year to year. That's how I got my H-1B visa. But if I applied for my H-1B visa right now, I'm not going to be able to get it, because I've had people, enroll in the lottery literally for 5 times, and that's 5 years, and they never got the visa number. So the problem that we have in the United States is we don't have a long-term way of thinking about immigration. It's very politicized.
Well, that may be, but shifting back, and there's no doubt that I agree with you that having a high-skilled labor force, a labor force that you have folks from other countries that want to come here, get educated here, and stay here, I think is worthy of that opportunity. And okay. I'm not objecting to that. My question is that immigration policy, and that's a broad brush. But my question is, we have some problems, right? We have some problems. We've seen these problems, and the people coming across the southern border that have come across the southern border since the Biden administration has been in here, we've seen 50,000 pounds of fentanyl coming across. We've seen cartels benefiting and shifting their focus from drugs to humans and human trafficking. Yes. Certainly problems. We've seen illegals coming here with nefarious intentions and backgrounds. So I don't think anybody on either side of the aisle can say that those things are not a national security concern, right? And just like you have friends, family, practice here, you want to be safe, right? We all want to be safe. Right.
Absolutely.
So we have a national security problem, and is that something that is going to be reduced? Those concerns be
Okay.
reduced with any current policies in place?
So the issue that we have, Rob, and this is where we come, from different spectrums. Here's the issue that I have. I got interviewed by ABC Action News over the Biden executive order earlier this week, and she asked me the same question. So uh, why do we look at people who come here and commit crimes and not look at the 99.999% of immigrants who come here who just want to build a better future for themselves and their families?
Because they don't
I
make the headlines of killing people and bringing in
abs-
fentanyl.
Absolutely, and they don't get used by xenophobes to say your immigrants are you know what was the word, they're diluting the American blood or something like that. I think I heard that someone say that. uh, the problem is, the statistics on immigrant crimes. I think the immigrants like commit 1% of the numbers of people who are born here in the United States. 1% of like 1% of crimes compared to people who are born here in the United States are committed by immigrants. There are bad people everywhere, and I promise you, you and I are in the same business. I mean, getting a case with someone with a red warrant from the Interpol, removal proceedings, is one of my favorite cases I have ever done. And you get to defend them. They get due process. They do all of these things. Um, but that's not the majority of the people who are coming here.
But those are the people that are causing the impact on national security issues for you, for me, and for folks that live across the United States, especially these border
Okay.
states.
So what
Right?
makes
I
it?
mean, I don't
So
want
what?
to. I don't want to minimize it. I don't want to
Yes,
minimize it. And,
I'm
and,
not.
and yeah, and I
I'm not. I'm
know
not.
you pursued the path, the righteous path, the proper path. You want your clients to do the same thing, and you want to utilize the lawful status and the lawful procedures to do that. My concern is, isn't there, by recognition, under immigration or under criminal law or whatever classification you have it, we have a problem, right? And we have a problem, and it may be whatever percentage, a small percentage, causing that problem. It's just like, any industry. You see lawyers disciplined in the Florida bar for stealing money from clients, and some people think, well, all lawyers are bad. Or you see some cop do something that is creating a impact on someone's civil rights or violating some civil rights, and it makes the newspaper. And of course, it makes all cops look bad, right? It's the same, this categorization of bad apples all together, right? Guilt by association.
Yes.
And there is some problem with that. And again, politics aside, I don't think you and I disagree that national security is an important part of what this country needs. Every country, right?
Absolutely. And here's something that you probably
I
will
mean, your
not.
home country of Lebanon, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it wanted national security, and then it let Hezbollah come in and do more than it should have. I used to hear Beirut was the Paris of the Middle East.
Yes. Um, if you do have a national security issue, you are absolutely never going to get a green card. That's almost impossible. Let's just forget about that for a second. Here is something that you probably will not a lot of people will probably not think that I should say, but I'm going to say it anyways. Here's what's happening right now, and the Democrats came back. I don't remember when, but there was the bill that got killed in the Senate. One of the things that the bill actually had is a redefinition of what's called probable fear. So when you come to the United States um, and try to apply for asylum, you get to interview with an officer, a CBP officer, to see if you actually have a fear of returning to your country. Most of the people that actually are coming into the United States are coming for economic reasons. Okay, So I represent them. You want to apply for asylum for economic reasons. I'll be more than happy to represent you and give you the best shot. The problem is 90% of the people that are coming through the border and are being put in the immigration system don't actually qualify for asylum.
Well, hasn't the president now to doing something, and maybe because of the election on the horizon, but they're going to curtail that, right? The issue of people being allowed to claim asylum, and I know that's created some problem for the progressives, but what you're talking about, isn't that now going to be something Washington is going to restrict?
There are two points. The first point is that was actually in the bill that was supposed to be passed in the Senate, and it got killed by the Republicans. We're not gonna go there, the political side of it. But the redefinition of the asylum, the fear criteria for you to actually get asylum will help with a lot of those people. And the actual bill also had expedited removal provisions, that if you didn't qualify for asylum, you'll be removed right away, things like that. Those are things that progressives do not like, and immigration attorneys like myself don't like, because again, I mean, it's business, but also a legitimate case is pending for 7 years in immigration court because of the backlog. So
Okay.
so the issue is, again, we need workers in the United States. We don't have a system that actually allows people to come in legally, so a lot of people actually come and cross the border, and because that's the only thing that they can do. And
Well,
it
we hope
goes
we
back.
hope we hope those people are coming to work, but we don't know for sure if there's other nefarious reasons for sure. But
Yes.
those that want to come here and work, and there's a labor pool necessary for that person in the United States, I think I was just telling my law clerks earlier before the show, to the extent we can get these folks here, get them working and registered to pay taxes and Social Security, get them lawfully licensed, because, as you know, I used to be a former prosecutor. I've do criminal defense, and traffic offenses, when someone doesn't have a license, they don't normally have insurance, right? And so if you can get them a license and get them car insurance, that's good for everybody. I'm
Yes.
for that. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, listen, I know we're wrapping up in time, but I wanted to
That's
ask
fine.
you also, what do you see on the horizon, if you can look into your crystal ball, of immigration reform?
I don't see anything coming anytime soon.
Okay. All
And
right.
I know, being pessimistic, the only way for it to happen is, for if Democrats get the House, the Senate, and the presidency this next year, maybe. But again, we've been at this now since George W. Bush was in the White House, and we've been trying to do immigration reform for a very long time. And unfortunately, one of the political parties in the United States doesn't believe that immigration is something that needs to be fixed.
Well,
I mean, it's that simple.
again, I disagree with that, but
Yes,
I
but
love your passion, and that's why you're a friend of mine and on the show.
thank you.
Let me ask you this: what are the one or two things that have caused you the most angst or concern, or at least gotten your attention? Something in your practice in immigration. What are the one or two things that have really made an impact on you?
Like,
Good,
since
good
I
or
started,
bad?
good or bad, the good part of it is, again, a lot of immigration lawyers don't do it for the love of money, right? Like, we do it because we believe in the system, and we believe in bringing people to this country. But that one tear in someone's eye when you get them asylum or a green card, or they become citizens, is worth millions of dollars. And that's a positive part of things that I do. I mean, a lot. And you and I are both lawyers. The one that really brings me consternation is losing, because I hate it. And you do everything possible for the client, and you end up losing a case. it really makes me not sleep for weeks sometimes, because and a lot of the times I didn't lose because I didn't do something correctly or incorrectly. It's because the system is stacked against against immigrants. So the good things come, but also, as in the practice of law, bad things come too. But I absolutely love what I do day in and day out, and that's why I keep doing it, and I've been doing it for a very long time. So the
And I can
go ahead.
I can sympathize with your position on losing. I mean, I don't know any lawyer that likes to lose, but certainly high frequency people like you and I hate to lose. But losing based upon the facts, based upon the law, as tough as that may be, it is what it is. We don't build a ship, we just fly it, right? But losing because of a judge or administrative tribunal that either has too much discretion or has abused their discretion, that's what really gets under my skin.
And I have been 9 times out of 10 when I appealed a loss, I've won the appeal.
Now, and therein lies why people say they have appellate courts, but you'd like to get it done right the first time. As we wrap up here, Ahmed, I told you we had a live studio audience, which is rare for me today. I've got 3 of our Stetson University law clerks with me this summer. Our alumni from the not alumni, but the clerks from our law school, and anybody that's listening. And there's going to be a lot of people listening from this show. Any words of wisdom for law students, people thinking about going to law school, people listening to this podcast, maybe in a different country, maybe people that are here that want to get in touch? What words of wisdom would you give to these folks?
If you're thinking about going to law school and you don't think about Stetson as your first option, you're doing it wrong. And I mean it. I know I'm a little biased to having 4 degrees from Stetson, but it's probably the best school in the country. And
you're talking to me and all the lawyers and law clerks in my room, in my office. We all know that.
So the words of wisdom that I'll probably give is never give up. I went through 17 years before I got my green card, and I went through 17 years of struggle and having to reach my goals with very limited resources as an international student. And I am the luckiest person in this whole world that I found Stetson, and they adopted me and they put me through my education and all of that stuff. But there are a lot of times that I was ready to give up because I wasn't going to be an attorney. And sometimes I said, okay, well, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But I didn't give up. So if you have a goal and it's worth fighting for, don't ever give up, because I'm the embodiment of that spirit, that if you don't give up, you're going to reach your goal. And don't give up just because you have an impediment in the road. Just get through it and go get it. I know you will at that. So
I know our listeners are not, of course, they don't know you like I do and know your story and your background. And I could just say I could spend the next 3 or 4 hours with you sharing your stories of your journey. And after you've been here, going back to your country and talking and meeting with your brothers and your mother and in the kitchen, and the things you've told me is just amazing. And again, part of the reason why I have so much respect for you and admire what you do and what you have done. You're the epitome of what it means to come here and do what is necessary and to continue to struggle and succeed. So I applaud you for everything you've done.
Thank you so much.
Amazing guy. Well, listen, it's been a fantastic show. If we have enough time, we'll do another show, but I appreciate you being on today. And, I'm looking forward to this episode. being heard by hopefully a lot of people that you can help, Ahmed.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Robert. And thank you
Okay.
for
Well,
having me. And you do great things too. So don't forget that.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, this has been another episode of Time Is Not On Your Side. Please like us on all social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever they may be. You can find us. And remember, victory comes to those who have the relentless pursuit for greatness. Thanks. Until next time.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
You've been tuning into Time Is Not On Your Side with your host, board-certified litigation attorney, Robert Eckard. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, roberteckardlaw.com. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.